Sis and Tell, a whole lot of talk, about a whole lot of nothing. Amanda does stand-up, Alison's on TV, and when they hop on the phone, it's the place you wanna be. Sis and Tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Just finished my quarterly trek to the Costco.
I love Costco.
You know, I do, but it's such a pain for me to get there. It's like 40 minutes each way, but the kids will only eat power bars from Costco. They're the Kirkland brand. But also they're the cheapest. And if I go online, they're like almost 50% more through Costco's website.
That
And
doesn't make sense.
it is. I've done the math. They're like 40 cents more per bar if I get them online. They're more expensive on Costco's website than if you go to the club. No, that's normal. They will do special pricing if you go into the warehouse versus purchase online.
You know why? Because they want you to shop there because they know by just picking up one item, you're going to come home with 10. That is
Probably,
really
yeah,
smart.
that's
Yep.
totally what happens. But so I have a strategy. I get certain things first. I build my cart like I'm packing to go somewhere, like I'm loading up the minivan.
Yeah.
And I get a flat. I don't get the regular shopping cart. I get the flats because I'm getting like the huge thing of toilet paper, the huge thing of paper towels, the dog food. It's like will not fit into a shopping cart. And those things they're like driving a cruise ship, right? It's huge. It takes effort to turn it around. Sometimes they're wobbly. I'm not sure if I should be dragging it or pushing it.
Right.
So I'm heading to checkout and I'm pushing this thing and it's kind of wobbly and someone's coming towards me. So I'm trying to maneuver around them. And this guy, probably around mommy and daddy's age, rolls his eyes at me. Rolls his eyes like I'm doing this on purpose and I am in his way. And I am so annoyed because it's so obvious that he's rolling his eyes at. He looks at me and goes, oh, so I look at him and as sarcastic as I can say it, I go, I am so sorry. I was just so annoyed. And I notice he's wearing an Alabama hat.
Uh-oh.
So then I say, of course,
Roll Tide.
And then his entire demeanor changed. And he goes, oh, well, roll tide. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. All right.
Roll Tide fixes all,
Oh my God.
possibly contentious social interactions. That is a takeaway from that story.
Yes, and he had no idea I was being sarcastic. I was so
Sarcastic about the sorry, never about the Roll Tide. Let's be clear.
Indeed. Oh my gosh.
You know my favorite Costco story, when Abe was little, we were going around and, they have the samples. And so there's a rule at Costco that if you're younger than a certain age, you have to have parental or guardian permission to get the samples. I think it's because
Of allergens.
and things like that. And so we're running around Costco. He's literally going, 20 feet in front of me to the next sampling. And then he'd point to me and say, there she is, and I'd just shake my head because I don't care. You can eat whatever you want. Well, he comes back to me quickly after one of them and he goes, Mom, it's a ham sandwich. And I was like, well, honey, we don't eat ham. And at the time we actually were keeping a strictly kosher home as well. And I said, we don't eat ham. He goes, but there's bread. It's Hawaiian bread and it's ham and it looks delicious. And I go, honey, you can't have the ham. You can have the bread, but you can't have the ham. And he's like, but I go, Abe, I draw the line at ham. You can have anything else in the store. That's where I draw the line.
You can have bacon, but you can't have ham.
Right.
It's just different.
Right.
It just
Anybody who
feels
doesn't
different.
eat pork knows bacon is not included in that.
Right.
So he runs up to the lady and finally he comes up and he's like bows his head like with a sullen, like defeated look. And he goes, can I just have the bread, ma'am? And she goes, just the bread, honey? He goes, my mom draws the line at ham. And she has no idea what that means.
I don't know what that
She
means.
handed him a tiny little quarter piece of the Hawaiian roll, which
are
I'm sure was
delicious.
equally
Yeah.
delicious. And he's like, walks away. So that's our favorite phrase is, my mom draws the line at ham.
I have to say, and we don't keep kosher in our house. And at one point, we were not letting treif in the house, which is Yiddish, I think. And it just
Sure.
means like
Pig. Yeah.
right. We don't let like
unkosher.
pork products or shellfish in the house, and that kind of all went to to pot when the pandemic started, and I just wanted my children to eat. So I was like, bring on the shrimp and bring
I
on the
think it,
bacon.
I think it went to pot when you realized that Shaquille O'Neal was going to be in the commercial that you
Oh,
shot,
yeah.
and you had to bring in a shakaroni pizza
That's
filled
true.
with pepperoni.
That's what happened. They're like,
That
we
is
have to bring.
exactly what happened.
That's what
We
happened.
don't eat pepperoni. It's for a commercial with Shaq.
Exact.
We eat pepperoni.
Okay. All right. We'll do it. So I'm like, it's outside. We're not using our utensils. But anyways, so we bring all the stuffs into the house. We bring pork ribs, we bring bacon, but I was looking for like ideas of something different to make that was like a lean meat. I'm like, I'm so sick of chicken. And someone's like, well, you should do pork loins. And that's where I draw the line. Pork loins. It felt like
Gross.
so unkosher. I don't know. Even more unkosher than bacon. I'm like, nope, we can do bacon, but I honestly, like, I would not bring, like, one of the kids was into like making sandwiches, wanted to bring deli meat, he wanted to get sliced ham. I go, no, we can't bring ham in the house. We can bring bacon, but I don't know what it is. We can bring in the shrimp. You want shrimp kebabs? I can do that.
Right.
But no ham and no pork loins. That's just I get it. I draw the line there too, and we don't even keep kosher.
Well, and when people listen to the variations of not just Judaism but Jewish practice, we sound a little crazy. I
So
mean,
crazy.
we're a little mashugana, let me tell you. But the reality is, it's like when somebody's learning English. To me, English is the hardest language to learn because there's a gazillion exceptions, right? Well, the G sounds like that, except for when it's got, a GH and then it's at the end of a word like slay, or it sounds like an F when it's at the end of the word like cough. And like
Right.
you cannot figure out how to pronounce anything based on a rule because everything, I before E except after C, or words that say as a neighbor and way. I mean, I've learned, you learn all those rhymes, but there's even more exceptions. This is, Judaism is the equivalent to religion as English is to language. There are so many,
Oh
and
my
I think
God.
personal interpretations and exceptions. I was on the phone, I do work with the Paperclips Project in Whitwell, Tennessee, and it is my favorite place to be because that community is just the most embracing, um, really curious community about all things, and it's because they've had this project literally, in their school and in their backyard since 1998, and so they've quite literally raised almost two generations of students now that have a understanding, a foundational understanding, not just of the Holocaust, but of other religions, which was Linda Hooper's purpose when she started it, when she was the principal in 1998. And I'm talking to my friend Taylor Kilgore, who she was a student during the Paperclips project back in, like 2000. Fast forward, she's now a history teacher at the school. She's running the Paperclips project and she has her master's in Holocaust studies. I mean, she is like a shining example of what, any community or any person can do in order to have an impact on future generations in terms of instilling understanding, justice, peace, inclusivity, right? It's not like the town of Whitwell has changed. It's still 99% white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. If somebody is wondering what the Paperclips Project is, go Google it, right? Go watch the film called Paperclips. Basically, the small town studied the Holocaust so that they wouldn't be in this insular valley. All this to say is they've had bar and bat mitzvahs there. They've gone to Israel. They've gone to concentration camps in Poland and Germany. They've traveled to South Africa. They have an unbelievable relationship with Har Zion Synagogue in Philadelphia, and that group and their Jewish educator and rabbi come down every year. So they have more. Linda Hooper still, right, who is involved. She knows more Yiddish than most Jewish people I know. So they have for people who are not Jewish and were raised not even around Jewish people, have such a broad and diverse understanding of Jews. And so they're also very open about asking what they don't know. And so Taylor and I are talking, and she was talking about a group that was coming out down, and she said, well, she goes, I think they keep kosher. And I don't know if I'm using this term right, but I think they're super conservative. And I said, well, I understand what you're saying, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist. That's one of the
Ultra
few things.
Orthodox? Is that
Yes,
what you
I said,
meant?
I think you mean ultra Orthodox or just conservative. But of course, there's also people who are modern
Yeah.
Orthodox, but now they call it flexidox because they're a little more flexible. And then you have like the conservadox who are people that are in the middle, and then the reformative, and she's like, oh my
Oh my
gosh. I
God.
go, I know. I was like, I'm so sorry, Taylor, because you have such a great understanding of Judaism, and I'm just mudding the waters and making it so difficult. And I realized after that conversation and after, this one, it's like, it's so hard to understand that, especially when you start talking about kosher and people go, oh, you don't eat pork or shellfish. I'm like, right. Theoretically, that is
It's
completely
not
true.
allowed in the house, but then I eat it out. Like people don't it doesn't it doesn't make sense. But for mommy, who doesn't eat it in the house, allow it in the house, or eat it out, but
Right.
daddy will eat it out. For her, it was about our home is different,
Yeah.
right? We have a
Yep.
Jewish home. Our home is different, and she made a little choice of what kosher meant to her and what she wanted to keep. And that's what I like about being Jewish. Is like choose your own adventure, right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
pick the traditions that are special and important to you and incorporate that into your family.
And that's why we kept kosher initially, because growing up in the South, especially in a city where, you're in Atlanta where there are 100,000 Jews, and we're in Chattanooga where there are 1,500. So, it's still not easy in Atlanta by any stretch. But, I knew that the boys, even if they went to public high school, secular school, they were around people who, for the most part, were not of their same faith, that they would wake up every morning and know they needed to get a dairy spoon in order to eat their cereal with milk. And at night, they'd have to get a meat fork to eat their chicken, things like that. It distinguishes them. And we
Yeah.
did keep pretty strict kosher for about the first 12 or 13 years. And then it just sort of gradually, when we couldn't get kosher food here, which was, well, now it's not as bad because we have Trader Joe's, but I started to incorporate meat, and at first it was just organic meat. I justified it all different ways. We were eating a lot of pasta and a lot of Morningstar soy products, but still the boys, even though they knew, I explained to them, right, like we still don't eat pork or shellfish in the house. We kept that for a long time too. Again, COVID messed up everything. We're just gonna blame the C word for everything.
Yeah, we're
um,
drinking tequila in our cereal,
yeah, it's
it's
fine,
like
right? Which spoon do I use for my margarita? Um, but they would say, still, like all through middle school and high school, can you hand me a dairy spoon or can you hand me a meat fork? And I would almost correct them, and then I would just say, absolutely, right? So some of those traditions you can start and they stick with you, even if you're not strictly adhering to them. I think that word tradition is what's most important, right? In any
Mhm.
faith or in any culture, is this idea of you're tethered to something bigger than you, that's about community, not just about, what do I want? This is about how do we keep up something that my grandparents did, right? And it ties us to our history as we figure out that path forward. It is choose your own adventure, and I think with the caveat, while honoring the past.
Yeah.
That's my sermon for the
All
day.
right.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you, Rabbi Allison.
Alan's saying that in the car right now. Thank you, Rabbi. You're welcome. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I have a question for you. I'm totally changing topics, but
Okay.
actually, my good friend Billy wanted us to discuss this on the podcast. He thought this would be a good topic to hear from us. And this is about naming your children. Okay. So when you were naming your children, I can't even remember. Like, you didn't find out if you were having a boy or girl, did you?
Yes. I
Oh,
found out all the genders.
oh, you did. Well, you
Yeah.
also had twins, so that makes sense too.
But I didn't start off with twins. I started off with one child.
Oh, right. And you knew that it was a boy. Did I
Mhm.
know it was a boy?
Yeah, we told people.
Okay. Did I know his name?
No,
When did I know his name?
when he was born.
Right. Who else knew his name before he was born?
Just Aaron.
What's his name again? I'm just kidding. Murray. Murray.
I have material about naming children.
I know, but here's the thing, not just
Yeah.
about naming them and how we all use these old people names. It's about the way you name them. So my friend Billy has a friend who literally did, basically, I think, a Facebook poll to ask what people should name their child who was born, not before. Like, the child's born, they're like, we can't decide on a name. What do you think of this name? And do you have any suggestions?
Well, my friend had a contest at their baby shower for the name, and I won. I won. I
No, you
won.
didn't.
I won. I was so I'm like I am not competitive when it comes to anything athletic, but when it's this type of thing, I am in it to win it. No, they assigned us tables at the baby shower. It was a co-ed
Like a
baby
game
shower.
show?
Yes. Yes, it was so exciting. They assigned us tables and each table had a name that they were considering, okay? And then the table had to get together and pitch to the couple why they should name their baby that name. So people were being ridiculous and silly, and
Right.
I went and started doing research. So, and the name was Grayson,
Okay.
and this was my friend Eric.
Boy or girl?
It was boy. Yeah.
Okay.
My friends Eric and Martine, they married each other, and
First child?
first child. And Eric's middle name is Robson. Okay. He was named after, it was like a tradition, I forget what, maybe Scottish, that your middle name is, it was his dad's, I think it was his dad's first name, and then they put son on it. So I knew that, and I did all this research on the term gray. I said, does gray come, do you have any grays in your family, any G's? Like, I did all this, and then I did this whole speech, and I didn't let the table do anything. They're like, Amanda's in charge. Like, they're three mimosas in. They're like, we'll just,
Right.
Amanda's really into this. We'll just get. So I did
Amanda's got a PowerPoint presentation already.
I did. I
made out.
had this whole presentation about like the history of the name and how Grayson, and is a hat tip to Robson and all this stuff, and they named and then they named their kid Grayson.
Oh my gosh.
At the end of the brunch, they decided we're using Grayson, and his name is, and that's his name.
And how old is he now?
I think he's like 9 or 10.
Wait, does he know this origin story?
I don't know.
Has he ever like come to meet the person who named him?
I'm not sure.
But well, you either know if you've met him or not.
I've not met him.
Well,
I haven't seen them. Then they moved. They're in Spain now. They moved to Spain.
What?
Yes. Talk
I
about
think-
regretting not going to a wedding. They got married in Mallorca. We were invited. I couldn't go. I really wish I'd gone to that wedding. That would have been outstanding.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, they're in
That's a
Spain.
great story.
They get back. They come back from Spain, I think, end of the summer.
Oh my gosh.
But they're both in
You
the
need a
end-
meeting with Grayson.
I
He needs to
know.
know this story.
I think he probably knows.
Well, then he needs to meet
He
you.
does need to meet me. I'm responsible for
It's a
pitching
great
his name.
story.
I love pitching things like that. I'm like, I got this.
I know you think this is now about you, but it's really about Grayson now. Like he has, you remember, because in school, right, when people like have to say like, where did your name come from or your family? Like he literally has the best story. He has like the best party story.
I mean,
Right?
with my name, they voted on my name. This crazy woman who was at the brunch.
Right. A stand-up. No, also here's the headline of his college essay. A stand-up comedian I never met named me.
I branded him. I'm so good at branding things.
I know.
love
It's
it.
great. It's great. So I met a guy this past weekend, speaking of names, and his last name is, ready for this? Van Cohen. And I said, what's your last name? He goes, Van Cohen.
Is it hyphenated?
Nope, 2 different words. And I said, there's a lot of intersectionality with that one name.
I want to be Mick Goldstein.
Right. Well, this is and I said, you've thrown a lot of cultures into that one last name. How did that come about? I've never heard that last name. He said, well, my wife is not Jewish. Her last name was like Van Con or something. He goes, I grew up Jewish and my last name was Cohen, and we wanted to merge our cultures. And so we created a new last name, Van Cohen, which also sounds sort of like a Jewish vampire, I will say. But
I wish I could suck your blood, but it's not kosher. Let's count to 18. Ready?
you do a very good count.
Thank you. Thank
Right.
you, Sesame Street. It was
But
years
can
of
you
Sesame
imagine,
Street.
like, what if we had the pressure of like having to create a new last name? Like first names are hard enough. It's so hard to figure out first names. Last names, that's a lot of pressure.
Okay, so I went to high school with this girl, and her last name was Crotch.
No.
Yes. Her last name was Crotch.
Crotch.
Yes, spelled it like it sounds and like it is. Crotch. Her last name is Crotch, and you just wait to get married. That's just mean.
That's just mean.
But I knew this. I can't even remember. There's this family. I don't know how. I don't think I knew them, but maybe it was like a news article, and they did not like their last name, and they voted on their last name. They let their kids pipe in, which is like, why would you do that? That is like, and young
Right.
kids too,
Right.
right? That's like naming a dog, and it ends up with this dumb name.
Yeah.
So their last name, Pancake. That is their
No,
last
it's
name.
not.
Yes,
You're
the
joking.
Pancake family. I'm serious. I'm gonna go Google that. I'm telling you, this is a story from like 12
There is
years ago.
actually a famous golfer in Chattanooga named Brooke Pancake, so it's not the stupidest name. I mean, I don't think she was part of the made up pancakes.
Oh, the Pancake family. I don't know if this is it, but I just found no, it's talking about pancakes.
Or homemade, but not. Yeah.
But everyone loves pancakes, no one's got a bad thing to say. I have a friend in Decatur, and their last name is Bacon, and I think that's an amazing last name. I mean, in addition to Kevin Bacon, people just love bacon.
Oh, that's true. You're right. People love bacon.
That's true.
Would you change your name? You have a good one. Marks is easy, though.
It's so funny because I was talking to Michael Sokol, who I grew up with, about at the acting world, and I was saying how people I get submitted a lot for ethnically ambiguous roles, and that would never happen in New York. They'd just be like Jewish girl, but here they don't know what to do with me. But he said something about you may want to consider changing your last name to something generic, and I go, how can I get more generic than Marks?
Right.
And he's like, I forgot.
You're not a Goldstein.
He's like, you're not a Goldstein anymore, because anyways, it was so funny. Yeah, Marks is very. I think I have a good last name. It's very. I like the alliteration, Amanda Marks.
Yep.
I'm happy with it. I think.
My alliteration's harder. Alison Lebovitz.
That's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
And you've got a 6-syllable first name. So
3.
Alison. I mean 3. Yeah, sorry.
I was like, what do you think my name is?
I mean everything together 6 syllables. Right? Alison. I don't know how when you're Southern, it is 6 syllables. But people, one thing they can control is what they name their kids, right? You may not be able to control your last name, but my friend Lorraine, who is a stand-up comedian, she made this post that she had as a friend named Alexander, and they had twin daughters, and they named them Alexandria and Alexandria.
Well, I didn't quite get the difference. Exactly. I could tell you changed it.
Okay, it's Alexandria and Alexandria.
What is it? A S? They threw an S.
Yeah, they
there?
threw an S in, right?
Alexandria.
Alexandria and Alexandria.
Okay.
Alexandria, and then his name, the dad's name is Alexander. So talk about confusing. But Murray, when he was in preschool, there were identical twin boys, and their names were James and James.
I don't know if it's my hearing or anything. I don't understand the difference.
It is like that dress, right?
James
some
and
people
James?
see it. Some people
like, is
don't.
it just the way you're pronouncing it? I don't understand.
James and James.
Like 2 S's?
Z, with a Z at the end.
Oh,
one has an S at the end, and one has a Z at the end.
So one's James, one's Jamez.
And it's not Jamez.
Well, I would call him James and Jamez.
Yeah, that's what I would call him too, but that's not it.
Well, who's the boxer who named all their kids?
Oh, George Foreman.
George, and George, right?
Yeah, they're all George.
I mean, there you go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That works. Oh, I heard the best story. My friend, who I work out with, her daughter is 2. Her oldest daughter is 2, and she was saying that she has a first cousin who just had a kid, and they named the kid Moses. Okay, this is smart for any kid, but for a 2-year-old, I think this is brilliant. And so another, one of her grandmother said, Joanna, did you hear about the baby? And she said, uh-huh. She goes, well, what's his name again? And she goes, Pharaoh.
She couldn't remember, but she remembered the Bible story.
She remembered the Bible story. Couldn't remember Moses, but I thought that is brilliant. Like to
That's
put that
so
together.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah. Names are hard. Names are hard. And then you are sort of stuck with your name forever, but then you're not. I mean, I know plenty of people who have changed their name, shortened their name, taken on their middle name instead of their first name. So, it's a responsibility, but I don't think it has to be a permanent, you know, thing that someone lives with. That's the good news.
Well, Mommy thought when she named me Amanda that name was so different. And then the 90s came.
Yeah.
It feels like Amanda feels like the name of the 90s, right? Not that people were naming babies who were born in the 90s Amanda, but that
Right.
it just felt like such like a 90s name.
Well, and I was named for, people think, oh, you're Jewish. There's such history back to like the tradition. Who were you named for? I'm like, my mom's favorite character on Peyton Place, a soap opera.
Oh God.
And I tell that to everybody, and they just kind of look at me until I met somebody who's about mommy and daddy's age, and they're like, oh, I loved Peyton Place. Yes, Allison, I remember that character.
But but you weren't named after the character, right? She wasn't like, I love this character. You're named after the
No,
character.
she loved the name
She loved the name, and she found out about it from Peyton Place.
from the show.
Right.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
That makes it better.
I mean, look, with our oldest, Murray, we were literally going for old Jewish man. We wanted to name him after Aaron's grandfather Max, but and I love the name Max, but there's so many Maxes, and I didn't want him to be another Max in Hebrew school or at Jewish summer camp. So we're like looking for M names everywhere, right? There is no chapter in the baby naming books for old Jewish man. They have all sorts of themes. Old Jewish man isn't in there. I was literally looking in the section called names that will never come back in fashion. Those are the names I was looking at. There was another list I found that was very helpful for old Jewish man names, and that was the Yortzeit list. And and for those of you who are like, what is she saying? All the Jewish people are laughing at this. The Yortzeit list is the list of people at the synagogue that it's the anniversary of their death, of their passing, and they say a special prayer for them, usually that week, the week of their passing. And we were looking at that list. I was looking up at the wall at the names on the Yortzeit list on the wall. And I mean, our favorite name, which was really hard for us to choose, was Murray. And it was hard because on your other side, you had a Murray. And I was
I
like,
still have a Murray.
You still have a Murray. You still have the Murray. And I was like, the Lebovitz boys are going to grow up thinking that Murray is this common name for someone in their generation, which it is not at all.
Well, and the funniest part of that whole story is, so Murray number one, we'll call him, who's my nephew on Alan's side, is 23, almost 24 years old. Murray number two is 17, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
17.
So I'm keeping, yeah. So now, they're far apart, but they also ended up at Jewish summer camp at the same time.
Yes.
The Murrayim, they used to call them, right?
Yeah.
In the plural Hebrew. And so, by the way, we're going to have to put a hechsher on this podcast and just name it certified kosher.
Right?
A hechsher is what you find on foods that are certified kosher.
You're going to need Google Translate for this podcast.
I know. We're going to need VH1 pop-ups for all the information. So, what you were trying to avoid, there was a full-on collision with my Murray. And I always say I'm the only person on earth with two nephews, lucky enough to have two nephews named Murray. And I will say my sister-in-law, Lauren, had never been so happy to have hand-me-downs for another Murray, right? Like the rocking chair with the Murray name, all these things that were so
Murray the moose bag. Yeah.
The Murray the moose bag, all of these precious things that she's like, nobody's gonna ever want it. Yeah.
Right? Oh, I still have the rocking chair.
Oh my gosh. She was so happy.
Yeah. It was it's a unique name. People are immediately endeared by him when they hear that name because they're like, I had an Uncle Murray, I had a great grandfather named Murray, there's a Muppet named Murray. In fact, not only are all my kids' names old age home names, they're also all Muppets. Literally.
Really?
Yes. There's a Ruby, there's obviously an Oscar, and there's a Murray. All those are Muppet names.
Do you
So-
have those Muppets? Like I would have bought those Muppets
Oh, well, no.
for the kids.
Well,
I mean, it's
Oscar
gotta
the
be little
Grouch has
versions of 'em.
got a bad attitude, and that's like the opposite of our Oscar.
Yeah, but he gets a bad rap. Oscar's just got an unfiltered approach to life. I
Yeah.
appreciate Oscar the Grouch now.
He
I
is
do.
like, yeah.
I think he's gotten a bad rap. They automatically call him the Grouch, and that automatically gives you a certain, connotation of who he's going to be. But he's just a guy
He's just straightforward.
who cares about his home and is sick of
Yeah.
people trashing it.
He's telling it like it is.
He tells it like it is. I like a guy like that.
Well, thanks for listening to the latest Sis Tell podcast. Don't forget to share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us with your foes.
As always, this has been Amanda and Allison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.